Okay, I'm going to demonstrate how to use the camera on the iPhone. So I'm going to start with just going over some of the things that you'll find on the screen. Oops. So up in the top left-hand corner, you'll see a little lightning bolt there that you can click on, and you can either that's the flash, you can either turn it on or off. The next one over is night mode. I will demonstrate how that works in a moment. Next to that, there is a little scale that is actually exposure control. So if you look down at the bottom now, you can see that I can under or overexpose by 2 stops. I'm just going to leave that at 0 for now. And if I click on this little inverted V, it gives a bunch of settings at the bottom. You can see, again, the flash is down there, night mode, live mode is down there, crop ratio, and under and over exposing, and also the timer and some filters. Now, moving across the top, you'll see raw max indicated there. That means that it is set for raw max, which means if I take a picture right now, we'll have 48 megapixels, or I should say up to 48 megapixels of resolution. I can turn that on or off just by clicking on it. And then the next one over is live mode. And live is where that gives you a short video clip, basically. And I am going to demonstrate that in another video, but for the most part, I leave that off because really the only time I want to use that is if I want to capture action or if I want to capture moving water and smooth it out. So unless I'm in those situations, I really don't use live mode. So when it comes to actually taking the photo in photo mode, you would want to click on where you want the focus and exposure to be. However, you can change the exposure. Once you've done that, let's say I want this a little bit darker, I can click on that exposure setting above, and then I can just decrease the exposure. And now you can see the focus will still be on the flower, but the overall image will be darker. So I can just click on it, and there you can see that's the image that I ended up with. That's probably a little more underexposed than I would want, but anyway, it just gives you an idea of what you can do. It does give you a little more control to be able to do focus and exposure separately. Now, moving over to portrait mode. Now, when you're in portrait mode, you have a few more options, but you're no longer in raw max. So the maximum resolution that you'll get here is 24 megapixel. And you'll notice that you have something down at the bottom here that says natural light. So when you're in portrait mode, you can change the lighting. I'm just going to set the focus there for the flower. And I can change this to studio light, contour light, stage light, and then there's a couple of black and white settings. One is a high key, and the other one is a stage light. So you can pick these before you take the picture. I would recommend not bothering with this at this point because you can change it in post. And you can also change the depth of field. So up in the top right-hand corner, you can see it says f3.5. That's what the aperture is set for right now. If I click on that, it gives me the option to change the depth of field. So down below, now you can see I can move it all the way up to 16, and then everything will be in focus. Or I can move it all the way down to, I think 1.4 is the minimum where hardly anything is in focus. But again, this is something you can change in post, so I wouldn't really get too fussy about it at this point. I'm going to just leave it at 3.5. and click on where I want it focused. And I think that's about all I would do before taking the shot. So I'm just going to take the photo. Now we'll look at the picture. And so now we have the option to make a few changes to it, as I said. So to make changes, if you look down below, in the middle, you have three buttons that are kind of circle encased in gray there. The one on the right, it looks like three little lines with circles in them. That's the one that you want to click on to make changes. And now up at the top, in the top left-hand corner, you see a little hexagon there. If you click on that, now you'll see at the bottom, there's a bunch of balls there with a cube around them. That's that lighting that you can change. So now that you have your picture taken, you can go through and see what you like best and change the lighting at this point. Now, I kind of like natural light, so I'm going to leave it there. But then again, you can change the depth of field. Let's say that I wanted really, really shallow depth of field. I can make it 1.4. Or let's say I wanted everything in focus. I can take it up to f16. And now everything's in focus. I'm going to leave it where I had it at 3.5. The other thing that is really cool actually in post is that you can change where the focus point was. So let's say you took this picture and it wasn't quite exactly where you wanted it. Let's say I wanted the vase in focus for some reason. I can click on the vase and now it is in focus. There's the front of the vase in focus, bottom of the vase. Now the background's in focus. So like you can virtually put it anywhere you like. Now in this case, I'm of course going to leave it on the flower, but it just tells you, or just gives you an idea of how many things you can change in post. Now there are other options for making changes in post. You can see them down along the bottom there. It says adjust, which gives you exposure changes and things like that. There's filters you can apply, you can crop, you can do some cleanup. Personally, I wouldn't recommend using this tool for that. I would do those changes in Lightroom or something like that rather than in the native camera editor. This is not bad, but I think Lightroom is much better, or Snapseed for that matter. So that's all I was going to do with that. And I think I will leave it there, and we'll see you in the next video.